Hey, what's good, everyone? So many early birds in today. We obviously don't start for a while. We've got 15 minutes left on the clock here before the actual webinar starts, but I thought I'd pop myself in and see how you guys are doing beforehand. Many legends in the house, and none more so than Crypto Eri. What an absolute honor it is to have you join us today. So yes, if you guys are watching this at a later date and you're not watching it live, you may want to fast forward 15 minutes for when the actual stream starts, if that's all you're interested in. We're just going to be doing a quick Q&A. In fact, I may even switch over to the Songbird live stream and just talk there for a bit. Let's do that. Turn down the music a bit. Yeah, so what do you guys think's coming out of this? I think it'll be very interesting. Flare and Songbird special. Watch Hugo, Phillion, CEO of Flare Networks. Obviously, it could be something to do with Uphold as well. We know that they're actually supporting the Spark token airdrop, and yes, who knows? Maybe they will become a signal provider. Now, the only exchange that we know of, which is becoming a signal provider, is, in fact, Bitrue. And I personally would like to see more exchanges come into the mix. Now, obviously, they're very big entities, and I'd just like to see it get mixed up a little bit. Gen Z in the house, I like turtles. Thank you very much, my friend. And actually, you might see the tip jar fill up in a second with a $2 bomb. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Gen Zen. Andrew Trollevery. What is a canary network? So essentially, a canary network is very much like a testnet, but it has one subtle and very important difference. The difference is that a canary network actually holds value, and a testnet, the tokens on a testnet, you have an unlimited supply, you can just create them at will. But the fact that Songbird had a predefined supply at the start at 15 billion, it means that the actual tokens themselves hold value, but it will very much serve like a testnet in the sense that developers can launch on the Songbird network and test it in an environment which is as close to the Flare network as possible. So that's basically the summary of a canary network. We've got 13 minutes on the clock before this starts. I'm excited for this. I don't really know what to expect. Oh, something that you can expect tonight, though, is a competition from myself on Twitter. So if you're not already on Twitter, you should definitely do so. And yes, be sure to follow me at Community Flare. We're going to do a competition, and it's probably going to last maybe a week, but there is going to be something juicy up for grabs. Yes, I'm Duncan VM. It's been a while since we have heard Hugo talk about Songbird since it's launched. Very true indeed, I really do love listening to Hugo speak. He's obviously a very intelligent guy. Hopefully he'll drop some nuggets. I'm going to be taking notes, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm sure we will, Duncan. I'm sure we'll get a nice update on how things are going. For those of you who don't already know, the Songbird launch is done in 3 different stages. We've got the initial launch of the, well, I guess it was in observation mode, and then we had the FTSO, or the Flare Time Series Oracle, or Songbird Time Series Oracle. It's basically the same thing. And The next step is to, enable the state connector. And the state connector is going to be responsible for monitoring all of these external blockchains that are integrated with the Flare network or the Songbird network. So that's step 2, and the third and final step will be the launch of the F asset system. And once all them 3 are proved to be running successfully, that's when we can expect Flare network to launch itself. So I think it's going to be a very busy couple of months. I don't want to put no time frame on it, and obviously the Flare team don't want to put a time frame on it as well, but these are very complicated systems, especially the state connector. So I guess the F asset system as well, because it's going to be taking a lot of value from external networks. They need to make sure that it is very robust and very safe. Ant, when is Hugo going to be live? Very soon, actually. The countdown for me is saying less than 10 minutes. 9 minutes, 30 seconds. Could you speak about the NFT bonus on best FTSO? Yes, so if you delegated with best FTSO for the last epoch, meaning if you was actually gaining rewards during the last epoch, you may be eligible to claim a NFT. And that NFT, we're talking about programmability into the NFT, which is going to be, I don't want to reveal too much details, but yeah, it's going to have some functionality, we hope, in the future, this very first one. Hey Riddler in the house. Nice to see you, my friend. And yes, for those of you who don't know, this animation that you see on the screen now is done by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the NFT Riddler. Fidel Rogue, this stream for the webinar. It certainly is. The webinar hasn't started. Starts on the hour, so just under 10 minutes. I'm just coming in here for the pre-show, getting my pen and paper at the ready, and yeah, we're just chilling here. Wondering if you guys had any questions. I'll certainly do my best to answer them. Yes, and Doc Bob D, I think you mentioned in the Flare community Discord if we will be able to ask questions, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. This is a webinar and not an AMA, so that is unfortunate, but we'll see what he has to say. I'm pretty sure Uphold will have some very interesting questions up their sleeves, and hopefully we get some nuggets, like I said earlier. To be frank, checking in for the airport. Where are you flying to, my friend? Chaotum, any idea when Flare Farm opens? I believe they're actually waiting for the nests to close, and then they're going to release version 2.0. So it's a variable. It depends when people want to close all of their nests. I don't think they have... the communication's not there for people to realize that they actually need to close their nests, because doing so could actually make them lose money. But in reality, Flare Finance said that they will recuperate any of the losses, if I'm not mistaken. But if you do have a nest open, I would highly recommend joining their Discord and talking to one of the moderators. I'm sure they'll be able to clarify that for you. Frashant, I'm not actually going to be part of the interview, I'm just streaming it. I wish I was, that would be pretty cool. Definitely have some curveballs to throw at him. Oh, nice to be frank. Yeah, travel safe. RPM, what is a nest? It's basically a way on the Flare Finance platform that you can provide collateral with assets like Songbird. I think Songbird is the only one at the minute, and from that collateral you can mint Canary dollars, CAND. CryptoCat, what if a data provider passes 10% voting power? Well, as far as I'm aware, I did seek some clarification from the Flare team, but I haven't got a response yet. But as far as I'm aware, the actual weighting for the signal provider is capped at 10%. So normally, the more votes that you have, the more weight that you have behind what is an actual accurate price. So I believe that's capped at 10%. I'm still waiting for clarification about the rewards, because if the rewards are also capped at 10%, then it's basically going to dilute the delegates. As more join, you'll be getting less returns. But like I said, I'm still waiting for clarification on that last part, but I'm definitely sure that the weight of the delegation votes is capped at 10%. Yeah, Crypto G, any news on version 2 for Flare Finance? They're just waiting for the nests to close. Dom Quenvendo, what will happen to Songbird if Flare no longer supports it as a Canary network? They're both going to run in parallel, and Flare doesn't have to support Canary network, the Songbird network, and Flare are not even going to support the Flare network once it launches. It's going to become a decentralized autonomous organization where it's community driven essentially, and the holders of the native asset really dictate the direction that the actual network develops. Zero Legacy Manifestation, thank you for broadcasting this for us, no problem. You know, I was going to watch it anyway, so I thought, why not stream it and see what you guys are saying in the chat too, and have a little bit of fun. Afterwards, we can have a little talk as well, and see what we make of it, see if there's any juicy nuggets, what have happened. Hopefully there is. I guess we'll wait and see. Leroy Bartel, should we avoid providers above 10%? I would do so. I know a FTSO actually went over 10% at one point, but then someone actually, or some people decided to withdraw from it. But yeah, it's definitely something to consider. Hey, to be frank, that's what I like to hear. Signed up to watch it, but it's more fun watching with you all. That's right, that's right. You know, I'll be interested to see if you guys have any opinions, and we can, you know, the thing is, I'm not going to be talking during the webinar. I don't want to interrupt any of the guys and sort of miss out on any useful information. But I will definitely be in the chat. Where's the interview? It's starting in about 1 minute time. Let's switch over to the screen. You guys can see it. Hopefully we have no audio issues or anything like that. I'm pretty sure everything's running smoothly. Yes, 40 seconds on the clock here. Hey, Big Ted the Megalodon. Hello, FC. Keep up the great work. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. I certainly will, and I do appreciate the support, Big Ted. I know you've been around here for a while now, and yeah, I love the ongoing support. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Coming in with the 589 theme as well. Gotta love it. So here we go. Last 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Connecting to room. Do not refresh this page. Okay. There we go, guys. Oh, chat's been disabled for this event, so it does look like no one is going to be able to ask questions, unfortunately. But I'm sure Uphold have some. So for those of you who may not be able to see that, it says welcome. The broadcast will begin shortly. Can't really zoom in on that. Apologies. Yeah, that's a bit better, right? Ooh, here we go, guys. I'm going to tune out then.
Perfect.
Let's watch this.
I think we're live.
I think we are.
Yeah, see you soon.
Excellent. I guess people will start funneling in here. It's great to connect with you again, Hugo. We have Hugo Phillion from Flare Network here to talk to me. I'm Josh. I head up risk at Uphold. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of preamble necessary. We have a lot of questions from users about both Songbird and Flare. It's obviously a hot topic these days, and I was kind of hoping to kind of jump into questions and see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. I mean, they range. I think they range on the technical side to some degree. I think that like we're both pretty technical, so I think it's probably the appropriate tone. One of the things is kind of like about the goals of Songbird. Like, after testing out the systems on Songbird, I know that Flare's MO is really to bring smart contract functionality to chains that don't support it natively. And how are you thinking about the benefits that this will bring all of those networks?
Cool. Yeah. So the way we see it is very much that there's this huge pot of kind of value and of users from these very large layer one networks like XRP, like Stellar, like Bitcoin Cash, like Doge, Litecoin, even Bitcoin itself. This is the sort of universe of assets that Flare kind of thinks about. And really, I think, a lot of those people, they want to be able to use their assets in a decentralized way to do more things. So, you have some networks, essentially these very large layer ones in some ways have been left behind by smart contracts. The smart contract really what is a revolution, because you've got loads and loads of decentralized applications being built, and you've got this huge amount of value, and much more importantly in some ways, huge amount of people that have been left behind. So we think it's incredibly important to bring smart contracts to these layer ones in some way. But one of the things it enables is cross-chain liquidity in a decentralized manner. So you haven't really been able to trade XRP for let's say Stellar or let's say Litecoin before. other than through a centralized exchange. And centralized exchange is great, but they, and incredibly important for the ecosystem. You work for one, we all need one, but there's downsides to centralization as well. And there's room for DEXs. That's what's been shown by the fact that there's DEXs. So let's say you're holding XRP, and let's say you really believe in the use case of XRP, as I think most of your many of Uphold's customers do, and as do we. But let's say you want to earn some yield from your XRP. So one of the key ways that you could do that is put that on Flare, and be a liquidity provider to a DEX that builds on Flare. And then that allows Uphold to trade against that DEX, and also gain additional liquidity in whatever tokens are put onto Flare. So that's one example of why smart contracts are useful. Another example is you have NFTs. Maybe you want to buy an NFT that is written in a kind of Ethereum style smart contract. NFTs can in fact be on many chains, but the industry has grown up around Ethereum. Let's say you want to buy that. So for instance, we already have a number of partners, Gala Games, 888, Sparkles, to name three, that are building NFTs. I see that Flare Finance, one of the applications, has released an NFT around a DeLorean. Best FTSO, one of our FTSO providers, has also released an NFT. So things like being able to buy those NFTs in XRP or in Doge or in Stellar, or in Litecoin or in any other token, that is really we think a desirable thing. So then there's an endless amount of innovation that can come from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that endless innovation that's really exciting to me and to us. I think that not being responsible for building all the killer applications that our users will want to use in crypto is really like a relief to some degree. We can be a bridge to open people up to all of this new world of content and applications and software, and not have our users be dependent on us coding all of it up and building all of it and testing all of it. I think that's the awesome part of all this. And one of the follow-ups to sort of that question was kind of Songbird's role in the rollout and kind of how you feel it's going, and the longer term role of Songbird.
Sure. So Songbird is the canary network for Flare. What we've stated is the canary in the coal mine. So Flare has three key protocols, really. There's the state connector, which allows state from other networks to be used by smart contracts on Flare or Songbird. There's the FTSO, which already exists and which people are staking to, which is Flare's native Oracle system. And then ultimately there's then the F assets. And that is the asset from XRP, Litecoin, Stellar, etc. on Flare. And those three protocols kind of interlock, and it's quite a complex system. There's a lot of testing we need to do. Songbird is like the ideal place to do that. The reason being is because we've told people it has some risk embedded, but it isn't a test network. It's a sort of form of a mainnet, but that's used for testing. And so that then allows us to get those protocols into the right shape to launch Flare into a production sort of network that we are much more comfortable with, in terms of saying that yes, we're happy for large amounts of money to be put through the F assets on Flare. We certainly would not say risk your life savings on the F assets on Songbird when they go live immediately. We'd certainly not advocate that anyone does that. So that's the role of Songbird, is to test the technology. Having said that, we know that the base EVM chain and the FTSO, it's sort of fairly stable now. And so there's quite a lot of utility that we think people could build on top of it, and we think we'll start to build on top of that. And so then what's really the long-term sort of utility for Songbird is is we've positioning it, we think of it as this long-term network where governance-led changes that are voted on by token holders on Flare are implemented first, so that it gets all of the new technology that Flare Foundation and anyone else basically proposes and accepts, and so gets that 6 months to a year in advance, or however long. Having said that, it will have a disparate group of token holders over the long term, and things like the State Connector present a myriad of potential opportunities that people could build applications for. So to give you an example, on Flare, we use the State Connector, principally, we use it, anyone else can use it for a different manner. We use it for the F assets. But you could use the State Connector to do a number of other things. One of the things you could do is, because you can see what's happened on another network, you could take the price from the FTSO, you could maybe stake against that price in a smart contract on either Songbird or Flare, and you could say, I'm going to deliver that price to another network like Ethereum. You got yourself a decentralized oracle. Then the State Connector can see whether you delivered that price, whether you delivered it at all, whether you delivered the right price at the right time, whether you did it honestly. And you can then have automatic smart contract controlled slashing, and then you've got yourself an oracle protocol. Really interesting, like cross-chain oracle protocol. It's not something we're building. It's not something we're thinking about building. It's an alternative thing that we're thinking about. Like, what can the State Connector be used for? There's an endless amount of potential use cases and loads of stuff we haven't thought of. That's what I think. If you ask me what is Songbird, it could completely diverge from what Flare is doing with the State Connector, and it could be a home for completely new and different use cases. Entirely up to the token holders, entirely up to developers.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, it's the like empowering people to build.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to build is kind of the really cool part of all this. I know at launch the assets that you're looking to sort of bring to the network are XRP, Stellar, Litecoin, and Doge. Do you have what are your plans behind sort of this launch cohort that you can speak to?
So I think I could give you like an exclusive. We're going to integrate Algorand before Flare goes live. So we're quite excited by that. We like the Algorand network. We're very keen on the the Algorand team. Talk to them quite a lot. We just think there's a great potential to use Algo, DeFi, and other applications on Flare. So we'll be integrating Algorand before Flare goes live. So it's going to be the 5th asset, and then once Flare goes live, we'll be using governance, or we will be using governance to propose other assets, and anyone else can use governance to propose any other asset. So token holder governance. We would expect the Cardano would be something that people, the ADA token would be something that people put forward through governance. We would certainly expect that Bitcoin would be a governance-based proposal, Bitcoin Cash. Again, it's just the larger tokens. I would even expect at some point that some of the larger ERC20s and maybe even Ethereum itself could be potentially subject to a governance proposal, but let's see.
Does governance control the properties of the F assets as well, like collateral ratios and other traits?
Certain properties, yes. So collateral ratios, we're starting off very high, 2.5, reducing that down to, it can be reduced down to 1.5. I would assume. I mean, it could be reduced lower, and that would be idiotic. But there are governance controls the inflation in the system, the parameters of the F assets, and a number of other parameters in the system entirely.
You hinted at this earlier, and it's a core part of the network, the time series Oracle. I know that you've got a bunch of articles online, but maybe for the people that are tuned in today, kind of explain like I'm 5 on the Flare time series Oracle and its role, criticality in the Flare network.
Okay, so it's one of the 3 protocols that we're building for Flare. And just to step back a little bit as to why we're building these protocols, because people will see, oh, there's other bridges that exist. Why do you need these 3 protocols? Well, our analysis leads us to a very simple conclusion. Almost all of the bridges out there that currently exist are some form of, essentially fit into a custodial kind of model, and should probably be regulated, and should definitely, think about being regulated. And so really what Flare's trying to do is it's trying to create a way to get tokens, to bridge tokens onto Flare in a way that really is custodial and really is trustless. And the problem is, that if you look at the Ethereum ecosystem, you've got all these layer 2s, and they are using some form of multi-sig to enable those tokens to cross those bridges. And that's, to our mind, both dangerous and falls foul of almost all regulations. So that's my 2 cents on that. So then we have all these various protocols which we say allows us to do that trustlessly, allows tokens to cross without there being any single set of people, custodians, that control that at all. That you can freely enter and exit that system, and that's the Flare model. So then the Flare time series Oracle provides prices. So the way Flare works is we have the state. The state just gives us information about what's happened on the underlying chain. We have smart contracts. This is the F asset smart contracts. These take collateral, and in order to administer that collateral, they need prices. So that's what the FTSO is for. It's to provide the price of XRP against the dollar. It's to provide the price of FLR or Songbird against the dollar. And so it's core to the F asset protocol. And then we've made it core to the network. So it's the core inflation function on the network. There's 2 sets of voters. There's the native token holders voters, so SGB or FLR, or the F asset token voters. So if you mint FXRP onto Flare or on Songbird, your vote also gets included in the FTSO. And when I say voting, what you're doing is you're taking your token, you're putting it into a smart contract to wrap it. The reason why you need to wrap it is that this gives it, this allows it to be sort of included, used by smart contracts for data purposes. Nothing else, just that. So you get out something called wrapped Songbird at the moment, or in the future it'll be a wrapped, where you won't need a wrapped version of an F asset, because that's already smart contract enabled. But you take your wrapped Songbird, and then you can delegate that to any one of, I think at the moment we have 26 or 27 data providers, and they are providing prices to the network every 3 minutes plus a random number. Perhaps I won't go into why they're providing a random number, but it's quite useful. First of all, it allows us to select a particular data series to reward in each round, but the random numbers are very useful to have on the network anyway. So you delegate it to a data provider, let's say at the moment, Bifrost Oracle. Bifrost is a famous, wallet that's had 40,000 downloads in the last 3 weeks. Probably definitely one of the fastest growing wallets ever. Which is very exciting, really, to see people interacting with the system. So then you delegate it to your data provider. They put a price in, depending on where their price falls within the range of different prices that are submitted and the number of votes that they have delegated to them. They get a return. They automatically get their cut. So they're not taking your tokens when you delegate it to them. They don't have any control over that, and they're not giving you your return. The system is giving you your return, but they get automatically a cut of that return that they specify, and it takes them a long time to change it. So they can't just put that fee up without you knowing about it, without you being able to walk away from them.
How have you do you feel like you've learned a lot from watching other Oracle networks kind of be built out on Ethereum? I mean, it's such a hard problem. I think that we've learned kind of the hard way on Oracle a few times.
It's definitely hard. I think, look, one of the biggest problems on Ethereum was the slowness of them, which is really difficult. But at the same time, I think we got lucky. We got really lucky because we don't use proof of stake. which means that we don't need a token to secure the network. We don't need you to stake your token to secure the network. And so we don't base our consensus on proof of stake. We don't need that. We base actually the Oracle system on a form of proof of stake. So that then allows us to basically, if people are very, prepared to say that, we can base an entire network on proof of stake, we say that's probably a poor idea. But we think that we're essentially using staking to entirely create prices for what is a useful system that provides utility. And so I think we just got very lucky there, just in our structure. It's kind of popped out of the fact that we're not using proof of stake. So, we definitely tried to learn from a lot of things. Really, for us, it was a lot about trying to make it genuinely decentralized. And right now we have 15% of the tokens delegated. I think over 30,000 people delegating, which is fairly decentralized as far as I can tell.
Is there, what's in place or what's in plans for tooling kind of around the oracles? Is there going to be dashboards and visualizations for how the price
we've been really lucky. So people have already built some dashboards. There's one called flaremetrics.io. There's ftso.au, has some good dashboards and things. Bifrost itself has good dashboards. So we luckily the smart contracts spit out as much information as you would require, and then anyone can create a dashboard that gives you rich information, down to how many rounds each data provider is winning, what their return is. It's quite and it's also wonderful to see that people have built it so quickly.
Yeah, it's it's like so much is dependent. Like so many applications are dependent on pricing. Chainlink, I think, is a bit of a contentious solution in the community, but it's undeniable that for Ethereum, before Chainlink, it was kind of the dark ages in terms of oracles. Everyone was building their own thing, and everyone was learning the same kind of painful lessons over and over again. I think that the fact that you guys have embraced that, pricing oracles are a core primitive to a blockchain.
100%.
And
I like to think also of the FTSO as an almost second derivative of the existing oracles. So, we've got our FTSO data providers, but there's absolutely no reason that any existing oracle system couldn't be a data provider in the FTSO. And by doing so, they're then, essentially, the FTSO can be a composite of any set of data providers or existing oracles that you want to use, but it also gets that data directly onto Flare or Songbird. So if you really want Chainlink data, it could already be there in the oracle if a Chainlink node decided to put that on Flare, or if you want, maybe API 3, another well-known oracle provider, could run a data provider. And then if you're an application on Flare, you can choose from any of the data providers, which you don't have to use the price that is kind of formulated from all the data providers. You could just choose the signal that comes from one of them or two of them, or you could recalculate however you like. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, I feel like by having it as a core primitive, though, you there's a lot potentially more economic skin in the game. By having it as a core part of the network. One of the concerns always with new Oracle solutions is they're very hard to bootstrap because there's not enough value contention for the providers relative to the value that they protect with their prices.
Yeah, agreed.
You mentioned this before about not the token not securing consensus in the network, and that I think that people have gotten really used to the idea that Matic is what secures consensus on Polygon. So I think one Spark isn't used to secure the network. Can you recap a bit on kind of why that ended up being the design choice and how the token instead really finds utility?
Yeah. So we use FBA to secure the network. FBA is what essentially in some ways what XRP uses. Slightly different, not quite FBA, but similar. And Stellar. Essentially, it's a very interesting class of algorithms that allows essentially trust to be propagated amongst a very large set of nodes. It's important to remember that the nodes are really only used for transaction ordering. And so that FBA is sort of provably Byzantine fault tolerant. And so we spent a long time trying to figure out how do we make an FBA algorithm that natively supports smart contracts. You could potentially take an existing FBA algorithm and kind of cram smart contracts onto them, as some people have suggested. But it's a harder task to do, especially with sort of networks like Stellar or whatever. So we've been working on that for a long time. I think a core reason for why we like FBA is that it means that you don't have this relationship between stake and value on the network. So we have it in the Oracle. The Oracle is there to basically create this synthetic asset, this asset that is FXRP or whatever, and that has a one-to-one value. Sort of, you have one unit of XRP over here, another unit of XRP over here, and so that value is very quantifiable. When you have just an endless amount of applications on a network that can potentially balloon in value way beyond this one-to-one. Like, let's say you have some non-linear kind of explosion of value on a network, then you've got to also have an equivalent explosion of value of the token, otherwise of a staking token. Otherwise, you're not going to get, you're not really going to have the safety that is promised by your white paper. Additionally, even if you assume that the staking elements sort of work with the value that's being created, you still, in a multi-chain world, a couple of things can happen. One, you still may get incentives on some other chain that makes it sensible to be malicious over here. But also importantly, yields flow will, safety will flow to the network with the most yield, probably. Over time, we expect there to be, logically, it would suggest that you'd end up with sort of one proof of stake network, and there's already 25 of them. Just because ultimately there'll probably be a concentration of value somewhere. And so we didn't want to base our safety around that. And so Flare's token's used really for two things. And we have an internal and we have an external economy. So the internal economy is what I said, is that's FTSO staking and the stake connector. And this is rewarded in either Flare or Songbird, depending on which network you're in. If you want to think about that, that is a reapportionment of value from people that are either too lazy to stake or are staking badly. And that flows to people who are staking well. So this is a redistribution of value internally. And really, if you want to think about why do we want to do that, it then allows, if you then hold those tokens, you can then earn value in the underlying tokens that are being bridged to Flare. So you earn fees in XRP, in Litecoin, in Stellar, in Algo. And so the participation over here is essentially the shuffling of the rights to earn fees for bridging those tokens. And that's really the utility, like the economic utility of the token. So it's a bit like a global economy, whereby the internal economy dictates how much of a share of the total earnings from abroad you get.
And the value accrual is sort of as you're successful in attracting assets to cross the bridge to Flare, like the bigger that pie is, the more you represent a bigger and bigger, or a percentage slice of that increasingly sized pie.
Exactly.
One of the apps that you called out earlier was Flare Finance, which looks like it's going to be one of the one of the earlier apps on the network. I checked it out a little bit, but it'd be good to for you to discuss kind of what services, what DeFi services they're going to provide, and maybe other apps that are coming.
So it's not my place particularly to talk about apps that build on the network, but they're a very ambitious application building DeFi on Flare. So the core. In some ways, the core function of DeFi can be sort of thought of as two things. One, creation of stablecoins. So taking something like Songbird or FLR, collateralizing it by basically taking 2.5 times the value and then getting like a dollar-based token out, right? So that's what are the core functions. Why do you want that? It's so that you can sell XRP for a dollar-based token, and you can go into something that you think is safe, and then you can go back at another point in time, right? And this then enables liquidity because it means I can put some dollars in, I can enable trading in XRP, and then I can enable trading in Dogecoin, and that all allows the market to persist and for people to find arbitrages and for liquidity to be propagated across blockchains. That's incredibly useful. And then the other, really this sort of other core leg of that is then the exchange that allows people to trade those stable coins or those other non-stable coins for each other, and that tends to be called an automated market maker. It uses a curve, and there's a whole kind of set of theories and ideas around it. It's been reasonably useful in practice, and so that's really the core of their I believe the core of what they're offering. So that's great because it means that those F assets that come to Flare in day one, you're going to be able to trade Doge for XRP or Doge for maybe some form of dollar-based stablecoin that's decentralized, collateralized from XRP. So that's the second application, which is Trustline, which is I think really very exciting as well. So they're creating a stablecoin, like a dollar-based stablecoin that takes in Songbird, takes in XRP, and can FXRP, and can potentially take in all the other assets on Flare as well. So then that'll be a useful coin to be enable liquidity provision against in the Flare DEX, in the Flare Finance DEX, and then really importantly, they're then doing lending in that coin, both on Flare and crossing the bridge back, which they're building a bridge called Solaris, which is based on partially on a blog on our website, how to close the circle between Flare and XRP. So then you would have Flare acting as the first decentralized gateway to the XRP ledger with a dollar-based stablecoin. So we think that's pretty exciting.
Has there been announced like a broad borrow and lending market, like a compound style application?
So I think that's what Trustline is sort of intending on enabling, but I'm also aware of several others who are talking to us.
I guess part of the appeal of the EVM of building everything on the Ethereum virtual machine is that it's easier, it's more portable to bring existing applications over to be run on the Flare network. Is Songbird Flare a pure EVM implementation? Like, are there specific restrictions?
No, it's pure Go Ethereum.
And I guess what other than the flexibility and making it easy to port applications over, what are the main? Were there concerns with choosing the EVM? Like, were you considering other options? How did you end up?
We're not considering other options at the moment. We've obviously been thinking about it. We haven't genuinely considered other options because there aren't really any options that have traction at the moment. EVM is optimized for Ethereum. That means it's non-optimal for a very fast network that may have potentially large memory required, that could potentially enable want to be able to use a lot of memory. So for instance, with the FTSO, one of the things we ran into was we were with the size of the smart contract, the state the state size was becoming very, very large. It was just ballooning. And so we use a cyclical buffer to basically delete all the old data and, basically, to have some, maybe I can't remember, 50 periods in the past is what's kept in the contract. The rest you can observe from the network, but the contract's not keeping it. So whereas you may want a smart contract that can have some idea of some massive state that allows you to do something interesting. So there are things that are not perfect about the EVM, but it is the absolute standard for all development today. There are other approaches, and as those other approaches, if they become successful, firstly I would expect the EVM to adopt them. So my guess is that if something became really useful, then EVM, Ethereum team would probably basically add to the EVM. There's no reason why they would stop innovating. But if there's something that comes along, it's feasible to upgrade anything, especially with governance.
Are there any particular sort of gotchas to the different consensus mechanisms intersection with EVM, or not particularly?
No, there shouldn't be. Not really.
I have a few questions that have come to us from Uphold users that I know that if you're willing, I'd love to ask.
Go for it.
We talked a fair bit about the time series oracle, and you mentioned there's already a lot of providers that are providing pricing to the network. Do you plan to have a limit on the number of oracle providers? And if you don't, how do you handle the scaling of 1,000 or 10,000 people?
So at the moment the limit's 100. 100 data providers. So that would mean 1% of the total tokens, delegated to each one in the optimal scenario. Having said that, we don't want to be limited to 100, and we are working on sort of an optimization to the FTSO to bring quite a lot of the functionality down to the Golang level, to pull that functionality out of the EVM and put it in the Golang level, so that we can scale sort of much more on both the number of providers and the number of data sets.
I can't just convince you to kick someone else out if I want to be a provider.
You kick them out by getting more delegation. So it's the 100 top ranked delegated data providers.
There's a relegation concept based on your amount of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
One of the really broad questions is just kind of where do you see the role of we talked about the song, but where do you see the role of Songbird 5 years out, 10 years out, as the network really is mature? Will there still be a need for the development network?
So I think the governance aspect of Songbird is really, of Flare, is really important. Songbird is the place that those changes are implemented first, and that's what we think Songbird will be used for. And there's no reason to think that Flare would ever stay necessarily. Flare as a network ever needs to stay static. 10 years is a 10 years is a long time in life, but it's in crypto. I think it's all of time. Well, it is all of time in crypto right now. So there's no particular reason why governance wouldn't be trying to optimize Flare continually over time, at which point Songbird plays very much an important role in that. However, as I said, I think earlier, is that Songbird can take its own path. It can do different things with the state connector. It can have a governance vote, and it can include different tokens in the F asset mix. It can completely diverge from that canary network role if it wishes, up to the token holders, up to the developers that want to develop on Songbird.
And in terms of people wanting to be developers on Songbird, what are kind of the easiest ways for people to to learn more, to get involved, how do they, like, where do they start?
First thing I suggest, because it's quite fun, download Bifrost Wallet or Ledger or whatever, and have a go at delegating. It's quite easy. It's fun. Gives you a bit of a flavor of how to use it. Then obviously learn some Solidity. That's sort of core need for any sort of EVM-based network. And otherwise, if you have a great idea, we're building a grants program. So come and talk to us.
I noticed that I noticed that the RPC is pretty easy to set up in MetaMask. For those that are developing, are there easy to use public RPCs for speaking from Web3 JS or Ether.js?
Yeah.
Whatever
language? Yeah, I think Toho Labs runs one. But you would, if you're running a good application, a decent sized application, you probably want to talk to us and run a node.
Okay, makes sense. This one is a little bit tricky. It's asking. We have a question about what are you doing with exchanges that haven't yet distributed their Songbird to users? How are you rattling them to hurry up?
So we don't, and we can't. So it's really up to exchanges. We don't ask exchanges to list the token. It's really up to them if they want to pass that on to their customers, whether they value their customers or not, whether they value what Flare is building or not. So it's an experimental network. It's not, some exchanges use that as a reason not to distribute the token. I think it's sort of rubbish, to be honest with you. But that's their choice.
Another question from customers is the relationship of Flare to X-Ripple and to Ripple generally. Like how close you guys is, like, what is what's the relationship like? How do you see the relationship between kind of Flare and Ripple?
Well, they're an investor in Flare. They've been very supportive of us. They've got their own path to tread, especially with the use case that they want to enable in the long run. A lot of that doesn't include Ethereum smart contracts. And a lot of that doesn't include a great degree of trustlessness across bridges. So Flare is like the trustless version. But yeah, the relationship's very good. Talk to them, reasonable amount. And our job is to help provide utility for that, and help provide utility for all the other tokens that we're integrating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that XRP really sits at the really mandate of making crypto usable for payments and moving money around, and I think that's always been a big part of Uphold's mission too, is to make crypto really useful, really usable in the real world, not just for speculation. And DeFi, I think, kind of came a little bit out of left field very quickly. We managed to be able to do a lot more with these applications on the networks, and that has moved more quickly than kind of the payments problems, which are sort of rooted in all these real world regulatory things that just don't move at the same speed as software. I think it's really powerful kind of to see, while the payment stuff is taking longer to play out, people can still bring and get value out of their XRP by bringing it over to the network and playing around with these applications that they've seen the Ethereum, the Ethereum clique get to play with for the last 2 years.
100%. 100%. I mean, that's for XRP, for all the other tokens that we're enabling. That's really the idea, and I think. I think being able to realize that value and that the liquidity of those tokens is, I think, valuable for the whole industry. I hope.
For users that are for the original kind of like layer one tokens, like after users cross the bridge and they have assets and they're playing and they're participating in applications on Flare, do you picture that users will still transact with the same frequency on the layer ones, or will most of these transactions, like, you know, I'm not going to send my friend Doge anymore, I'll send him F Doge on Flare? Like, how are you thinking of like the relationship between the legacy payments?
Yeah,
Legacy payments.
I think, you know, it's like I had this conversation about payments the other day. So I think partly it depends on what the cost is on the underlying, right? So if you took Bitcoin, and like I must caveat this that we're currently not integrating Bitcoin, and it would need to be integrated via governance vote if we don't integrate it before we launch Flare, and we don't have plans to. But if you took Bitcoin and you put F Bitcoin on Flare, like first of all, you would have like a way to do payments, and secondly, you'd have a way to, you know, do payments that would be non-custodial in Bitcoin. Potentially, I would say, a meaningful competition for Lightning. So, you know, again, same for Doge, same for Litecoin. Do I think it'll be primarily used for payments? Could be. But I think, you know, payments is the, you know, I'd say in some ways the least interesting. I think it'll be used for arbitrage, which is where I think that there's an interesting sort of opportunity.
Thanks. Well, I appreciate you so much coming, you know, like chatting with me and answering all these questions. I think that I've certainly learned a lot more about Songbird and Flare. We're very excited to support Songbird and Flare and Uphold when it launches. I think that we've you know had a really good relationship with the XRP community. I mean, I think that like I said, we believe a lot in the mission of XRP. And yeah, I'm very grateful for your very helpful answers to all these questions. I'm sure that me and you will be connecting a lot over the coming months as Songbird, you know, like continues to hit prime time and Flare rolls out.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Hugo. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was insightful, right? I thought that was great, if I'm honest. Let me just get something up here. So, we'll just watch them awkwardly stand there until the stream ends. There we go. Okay, so it was all right in our noses all along. I got to give a big shout out to Doc Bob D, who pointed this out to me for quite some time ago, you know. This is the GitLab for Flare, and you know, you have and it's basically a place where developers can sort of contribute to the same source code, the same project, and this project being Flare. So if we look here on the merge requests, a merge is basically where a developer takes a copy of the master branch and they make some addition, and then they want to merge it back into the main project, back into the master branch. So if we look here on history on the merged, let me just increase this for you guys. Apologies for that. Where was it? Find. There we go. Algorand state connector interface, and I did actually mention this on a previous stream. And I did have my speculations about Algorand being one of the assets to be added next. And also, what else did we have? There's another one that's definitely a possibility, but I do like to keep my eye on this this project. So if you go to commits, changes, we can see in a couple of files here. This is basically sort of, these are all different types of integrated assets: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, XRP, and Algorand, which is just being added. So like I said, it's been there all along, and they've got these various functions here to validate that. So it's confirmed. Algorand is a thing. Very much welcomed from me anyway. So that was good. What else did we have? We had the idea of, in fact, let's switch over to the Songbird stream. Yeah, so we also had the idea of something, the top 100 signal providers. So for those of you who don't actually know, there is a cap on the amount of data that a time series oracle will ingest. And that is 100, and there's not going to be a centralized party dictating who goes onto it. It's basically going to be done by delegation amount. So if you can muster up a lot of delegations and drum up a lot of support, then you can definitely break into that top 100. I did see a chat somewhere. Yes, Charkan, he said some exchanges won't distribute. Well, that's definitely a possibility. What he did say was, he said that it's up to the exchanges. You know, when the Flare team approached these exchanges to announce support for the Spark token and distribute to them, they had this agreement where the exchanges would distribute the Spark tokens. Now, since that agreement, they've decided to launch the Canary network, Songbird. Now, that's not part of the deal which they managed to solidify. So at the end of the day, when the Songbird network launched, the Songbird token was distributed to all those who are eligible to receive the Spark token, whether that's an exchange or an individual. It doesn't matter. That it's just what's happened. Everyone that was expecting to receive Spark received Songbird. Now, I also heard some people earlier talking about will X exchange support the XFi airdrop. Now, if there's anything that you should learn from this process about exchanges and maybe potentially holding your assets, the lesson is to understand that owning your own wallet and having access to your own wallet is extremely important, so please don't make the same mistake twice. If you have Songbird, hold it in a wallet which you have the keys to, and that way you have access to any airdrops, definitely, because it's only you that can access that wallet. There is no centralized authority that can stop you from, or stop distributing you them particular assets. So yeah, something else that I found interesting from that was this idea that existing oracles such as Chainlink, and for those of you who don't know, it's basically a similar process to the FTSO where they're extracting data from multiple sources and they're outputting a decentralized price output. Now, these oracles such as Chainlink could, in theory, become a signal provider themselves. They already have this price output, what they believe is to be correct. They could just submit that to the Flare or the Songbird time series oracle. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. Yeah, we got lots of information from that, but I think the main standout was the announcement that Algorand is going to be integrated into Flare prior to launch, and we have just seen the source code there to confirm it, and Hugo obviously confirmed it too. Yes, Anna, you've got the right idea. Get yourself some cold storage. Now, there's obviously the Bifrost wallet, which is completely free. If you want to take it a step further, there is a decent biometric hardware wallet, and you can get $50 off in the description of this video. True story. Hashtag Angry Birds. Yeah, that's funny. Yes, I mean, everyone's been kicking up a fuss about the exchanges not distributing Songbird, and the majority of them have definitely listened, and as these big top tier exchanges like Uphold, Bitstamp begin to accept Songbird, it gives it more legitimacy, and I eventually think that it's going to be listed on many of these exchanges. I guess the real secret is if they list it and they don't distribute them, then we're definitely going to have to kick up a fuss about that. Yeah, rolling crypto. Decent's wallet is awesome. Bought 2. Yeah, I must say I'm very impressed with Decent, and they've been continuously announcing partnerships with all of the data providers too, so that's always good. Danielle, I think for some reason you can't get into the Discord. That's very strange. Can you see any of the channels in the Discord? Can you accept the invite yourself? No? AB, have I missed version 2 of the XFi where we can use wrapped Songbird? No, not yet. Flare Finance are actually waiting for the nests to close. So if you do have a nest open, jump over to the Flare Finance Discord and contact a moderator. Okie dokie, Scarbo. Nice having you about. Have a good meal, and I shall see you soon. So yeah, very interesting things indeed. I really did like that interview. I think I'm going to rewatch it and try to see what else we have there. I think that was the 3 main big points for me. Obviously the Algorand announcement, the idea of an existing oracle to submit prices to the time series oracle, and the top 100 signal providers, almost like a dynamic list, whereas if you're in the top 100, you will get a share of the rewards, and if not, then you won't. And actually something else Hugo mentioned, which I found interesting, is this idea of will the transactions on the Flare network exceed that of the transactions on the underlying layer 1 network, and made a great point with Bitcoin. So I guess it's very dependent on the speed and the cost of the underlying chain itself. Bitcoin's a great example because it's very slow and it's very expensive. So if users wanted to, I guess, transfer Bitcoin in a faster and cheaper way, they could just bring it onto the Flare network, do their transactions, and then take it off. So well, that was good. Another use case for Songbird. But yes, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. It's been a lot of fun chatting in the live chat, and it's been a real pleasure streaming this for you guys. So take care, everyone, and until next time, I'm out.
We have liftoff.